rewind. Some of you are old enough to know what that means, rewind. I asked my god kids, rewind. They're like, rewind? What's that? You get the wind to blow again? No, rewind. Okay, now we start again, In the space before me, I envisioned the Buddha, the Lord of sages, surrounded by unfathomable root and lineage, gurus, Buddhas, and Bodhisattvas. Dungi namkar dumpa dube wangpo la kurusa jugi lama dha sanje changsen paktu mepe korne shukbarzam. Antonio?
I and all mother sentient beings, extensive as space, take refuge in the root and lineage gurus. We take refuge in perfect Buddhas, the transcendent conquerors. We take refuge in the holy Dharma, free from attachment to peaceful nirvana. We take refuge in the noble assembly of Bodhisattvas, endowed with realization and liberation.
Dadan chowa margyo namke tada nyampe senchen tamche sawa dhan kyupe lama namla gyabsu chu zobe sanje chum dende namla gyabsu chu shiva chadya tampe cho namla gyabsu chu ridru niden gyase pape so namla gyabsu chu dadan chowa margyo namke tada nyampe senchen tamche sawa dang gyube lama namla gyabsu jiwo sobe sanje chom dende namla gyabsu jiwo shiva chadra dambe cho namla gyabsu jiwo ridru niden gyase pape so namla gyabsu jiwo nadan jowa margyu namge tadang nyambe senjen tamje sawa dang gyube lama namla gyabsu jiwo sobe sanje chom dende namla gyabsu jiwo shiva chadya dambe cho namla gyabsu jiwo ridru niden gyase pape so namla gyabsu jiwo. Sandra?
We all sentient beings who have not realized that a self and all appearances are by nature Dharma Dhatu, have happiness and the causes of happiness. May they be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. May they not be separated from the happiness which is free from suffering. May they rest in equanimity, free from attachment and aversion.
Dada nawa tang che jugi yingi ranshin yimpala de dharma tobe semchen tamche dewa dhan dewe gyudan dambara gyuji dungyao dang dungyao ki gyudan drawa gyuji dungyao mepe dewa dhamme drawa gyuji nirin chadang nidan drawa tangyo la nebra gyuji dada nawa tamche jugi yingi rangshin yinpa la de dharma tobe semchen tamche dewa dang dewe gyudan dembara gyuji dungyao dang dungyao gi gyudan drawa gyuji dungyao mepe dewa dangme drawa gyuji nirin chadang nidang drawe tangyang la nebra gyuji dada nangwa tamche jugi yingi rangshin yinpa la de dharma tobe semchen tamche dewa dhan dewe gyudan dembara gyuji dungyao dang dungyao gi gyudan drawa gyuji dungyao mepe dewa dangme drawa gyuji nirin chadang nidang drawe tangyang la nebra gyuji. Randy?
May I swiftly attain the sublime state of perfectly complete awakening for the sake of all mother sentient beings. For this purpose, I shall make offerings to the 35 Buddhas, and having invoked their heart pledge, I shall engage in the practice of confessing downfalls.
Masem chen tam chen ki dun dun hirwa yan tabra zobe san chen ki gompa rinpo je dobra je de je du dewa sheba zum ju sanga ju jin tu dan kune tongwa shabe chugala ju par jo. The objects of refuge dissolve into me. Kyab yu nang rang la tempar gyuru. Now just take a few moments and let body and mind settle evenly into their own places. If you find helpful, then you can anchor this settling on the experience of breath arising and ceasing. Using breath as a bridge to help body to settle and to help mind to settle. Lucrezia, starting on page 9, the bottom of page 9, please.
Compassionate, transcendent conquerors, dwelling in the 10 directions, please heed us. In the past, when you, the 35 compassionate, transcendent conquerors, engaged in Bodhisattva deeds, you aroused bodhicitta and vowed to cleanse the obscurations of wandering beings in times when the 5 degenerations are rampant. Following this pledge, in order to protect us, helpless wandering beings, today we invite you to safeguard and stand by us as our last resort. Having come, regard us with eyes of compassion and purify our faults and downfalls. Please come and cause our store of merit to increase.
Juju na jube jumden de tuje jempo dan tempa nam tala gong su so jumden de tuje jempo dan tempa sum ju sanga boge nam ngon jang ju zempe jeba jube ze Nigma ngara do droba namgi dreba jungwa tukie jing tu dam jida shewa de shin du den da cha gume ki drowa gyobe le du gong kya dam punyen du jen duen chen china tu je jen ji sing ne da cha ki ni tun jung shin so nam ki so pe we le du jom bar je bottom of page 22. All addressed in the style of a renunciate Nirmanakaya and adorned with the 32 excellent marks and 80 minor marks, such as the crown protuberance and wheels on the feet. With their 60 aspects of melodious speech, they proclaim the clear sound of the Mahayana teachings. As their minds do not move from Vajra like samadhi, they clearly understand all objects of knowledge in the 3 times. Their bodies are garbed in the 3 Dharma robes, and garlands of light shine like the sun from their bodies to alleviate the pain of miserable destinies. With eyes open wide like lotus petals, they behold me and all sentient beings with great compassion. Upon merely beholding them, these great beings effortlessly accomplish the temporary and ultimate purposes of all sentient beings. They thus abide with legs in Vajra posture. As we raise beautiful jeweled parasols with golden handles delightfully adorned all around, with pleasing forms so lovely to behold, we make unceasing offerings to the lords of sages. To the middle of page 36, Omar.
To those, in as many words as exist in the 10 directions, all of the lions among humans, the Tathagatas of the 3 times, to all of them, without exception, I prostrate with faithful body, speech, and mind. Through the power of this prayer for excellent conduct, may all the victorious ones vividly appear in my mind. With bodies as numerous as atoms in the universe, I respectfully bow down and pay homage to all the victorious ones.
Jine suda jeje jide na dusun sheba miye senge gun dagi malu deda tamje la luda nga yi dangwe jagi wo zambo jobe mon lam top dagi yawa tamje yigi ngonsum dun shingi dune luram tubayi yawa kunla rabdu jazelu. Then page 37, Claudia.
In a single atom residing amidst their Bodhisattva sons, there are as many Buddhas as there are atoms in the entire world. In the same way, I imagine the entire Dharma expands to be completely filled with victorious ones. With inexhaustible oceans of praise and oceans of melodious sounds extolling the noble qualities of the victorious ones, I praise all the Sugatas. To all those worthy of honor, while offering praise with supreme faith, I bow unceasingly with bodies as numerous as dust motes in the universe.
Doji tena dune sanje na sanje shiki una shubada deda jugi yinga malupa tamche gyawa dagi gawa mo deda ngaba midze kyazo na Yang yen la dra gyazo dra gunji gyawa gunji yonden rabzo jing dewa sheba tamje dagi du jaja oba tamje la shindu gunji drane gi ludu bayi nam kundu chukdu debe tombar ji. Next section, page 38. Cecile, are you there? Oh, no, actually, not there. Josh? Page 38.
With the best of flowers and exquisite garlands, music, ointments, supreme parasols, divine lights, and the finest incense, to make offerings to the victorious ones. With the finest garments, sweet fragrances, and powdered incense piled high as Mount Meru, and with everything in exalted and sublime display, and make offerings to the victorious ones. I also imagine vast and unsurpassed offerings made to all of the victorious ones. Through the power of my faith and excellent conduct, I prostrate and offer to all the victorious ones.
Meto Dhampa Trengwa Dhampa Dhan Silnien Namdan Jungpa Dungjo Dha Marme Chudan Dungpo Dhampa Yi Gyawa Deda Lani Chobar Ji Nabza Dhampa Namdan Drijob Dhan Chema Purma Rera Nyampa Dhan Kobe Gebar Barbe Chugunji Gyawa Deda Layang Chobar Ji Choba Gangnan Lame Gyaje Wa Deda Gyawa Tamje Layang Mo Zampo Chola Debe Topdagi Gyawa Kunla Chase Chobar Ji. Page 48, Jasper.
I confess whatever wrong I have done with my body, speech, and also my well-being, overpowered by attachment, hatred, and ignorance. I rejoice in the merits of all Buddhas and Bodhisattvas of the 10 directions, the solitary Buddhas, those on the path of learning, those beyond learning, and all beings.
Docha shedan timu wangi ni ludang adan deshi nyiki kya digpa dagi gipa jeje par deda tamche dagi soso sha joju gyawa kundang sanje se rangya namdam lodam meloda dowa kunji sonam kangla yang deda kunji jese dayi rang. Page 49, Elena.
All of those liked in the words of the 10 directions, who having passed through the stage of the Buddhahood, attained awakening free from attachment. To all of these protectors, I beseech you to turn the unsurpassed will of Dharma. To all those who intend to demonstrate Nirvana, with my palms joined together, I beseech you to remain for the benefit of happiness of all beings, for as many kalpas as there are atoms in the universe. Whatever like virtues I may have gathered from prostration, offering, confessions, rejoicing, requesting, and beseeching, I dedicate it to awakening of all beings.
Ganan chuju jiten dromanan chanju rinpa sanje machane gombo deda dagi tamje la kulo lana mepa gorwa gu nyangen dadong kanshe deda la drowa gunla penshin dewe ji gyaba shingi dune subarya Dagi Tamo Rabja Sovarji Jase Wadan Chujing Shabada Jise Yirang Kuzing Sovayi Gewa Jungse Dagi Jisakpa Tamche Zobe Chanchu Chirungo. In accordance with the 35 Sugata's aspiration to exhaust the karmic veils of those who remember their excellent names and pay homage to them, please bestow the fruits of this wish. So now the main practice, starting from the bottom of page 50. Throughout all time, all sentient beings take refuge in the Guru, take refuge in the Buddha, take refuge in the Dharma, take refuge in the Sangha. Homage to the Bhagavan Tathagata Arhat, the perfectly complete Buddha Shakyamuni. Leonard? Leonard, if you're there, unmute.
Homage to the one who has fully conquered with Vajra essence. Homage to jewel radiating light. Homage to the sovereign king of Nagas. Homage to the leader of the brave.
Adriana?
Homage to glorious joy. Homage to jewel fire. Homage to jewel moonlight. Homage to meaningful to behold.
Tracy?
Homage to jewel moon. Homage to the stainless one. Homage to glorious giving. Homage to the pure one.
Samantha?
Homage to giving of purity. Homage to the war god. Homage to the god of water gods. Homage to good glory.
Josh Nash?
Homage to glorious sandalwood. Homage to infinite brilliance. Homage to glorious light. Homage to glory without sorrow.
Vicky?
Homage to the son of no craving. Homage to glory of flowers.
Daniela?
Homage to the Tathagata radiant pure display of complete omniscience.
Christina, page 52, second section from the bottom.
Homage to the Tathagata's completely omniscient display of lotus light. Homage to the glory of wealth. Homage to the glory of mindfulness.
Joyce?
Homage to widely renowned glorious name. Homage to the king, victory banner that crowns the sovereign.
Rowan?
Homage to the glorious one who fully subdues. Homage to sublime victor in battle.
Judy?
Homage to the one gone beyond through complete victory. Homage to glorious illuminating array. Homage to all subduing lotus jewel.
Waiting?
Homage to the king of Mount Meru, the Tathagata Arhat, perfectly complete Buddha, abiding on a jewel lotus.
All these and all the Tathagatas, Arhats, however many perfectly complete Buddhas abide in all the worlds of the 10 directions, and all the Buddhas, the transcendent conquerors who prevail in this world, please heed me. Melissa?
In all the states of birth within samsara, I have committed evil deeds. I have instigated others and found joy in their crimes. I have stolen the wealth of stupas, the Sangha community, and the Sangha of the 10 directions.
Larry? Larry, if you're there, unmute. Otherwise, Laura Herman, page 54.
I have incited others to steal and found joy in their thefts. I have committed the 5 immediate sins, have incited others to commit them, and have found joy in their downfalls. I have fully entered the path of engaging in the 10 unwholesome deeds, have incited others to enter it, and have found joy in their submission.
Mariana, half of page 55.
Obscured by all these karmic veils, I and sentient beings have gone to hell, have gone to the birthplace of animals, have gone to the worlds of hungry ghosts, have taken birth in a savage place as a barbarians, as long-lived goods, and as humans with impaired sense faculties.
Rodrigo?
I have turned to corrupted views and karmic obscurations from having failed to please the Buddhas I encountered in the presence of the Bhagavan Buddha wisdom mind, before their eyes, in their witness, before the authentic ones, the all-knowing one, the all-seeing ones. I disclose all these karmic obscurations. I declare them. I shall not hide them, and hereafter I shall sever and bind them.
Miriam?
All Buddhas transcendent conquerors, please heed me. I gather all the roots of virtue I have accumulated in cyclic existence through having acted generously towards another samsaric sentient being, having only offering amount of food to those born in the animal realm, together with any root of virtue from having guarded moral discipline, any root virtue from having practiced pure conduct, any root of virtue from having brought sentient beings to full maturity, any root of virtue from having given rise to bodhicitta, the mind sent on supreme awakening.
Annalisa?
And any root of virtue from unsurpassed primordial awareness accumulated in these and former lives without beginning within samsara, all these I dedicate them perfectly, supremely, most supremely, and sublimely towards unsurpassed, perfectly complete awakening.
Alexander?
Just as his previous Bhagavan Buddhas perfectly perform dedication, and just as the Bhagavan Buddhas who have not yet appeared will perfectly perform dedication, and just as the present Bhagavan Buddhas perfectly perform dedication, likewise shall I perform perfect dedication. I confess each and every wrongdoing and rejoice in all merits.
Kimberly?
I exhort and supplicate all Buddhas that I may attain unsurpassed, most excellent primordial wisdom. With my palms joined together, I wholeheartedly take refuge in all those with praiseworthy qualities as infinite as the vast ocean, all the Buddhas supreme among humans who exist at present, those who have passed into nirvana, and those who have not yet appeared.
So let's go back to page 50. So this round, I'm going to chant the names of the Buddhas in Tibetan and the homage to the Buddhas in Tibetan. And then after that, we will do part 2 and 3 in English. Zemchen Tamche Tangpar Lama La Gyabzu Chiwa Sanje La Gyabzu Chiwa Chola Gyabzu Chiwa Genden La Gyabzu Chiwa Chum Dende Deshin Shebar Da Jumpa Yang Dambara Sobe Sanje Shakya Dumpa La Chaselo Doje Nimpo Rabdu Jumpa La Chaselo Rinjin Udro La Chaselo Lo wangi kyabo la jasa lo pavo de la jasa lo pelge la jasa lo rinjen me la jasa lo rinjen tao la jasa lo tongwa donyo la jasa lo rinjen tawa la jasa lo Rima me ba la jasa lo pa jin la jasa lo changpa changpe changpa la jasa lo changpe jin la jasa lo chu la jasa lo chu le la jasa lo biao zang la jasa lo zhen den biao la jasa lo si ji da ye la jasa lo o biao la jasa lo nyang ye me be biao la jasa lo se me gi po la jasa lo me to biao la jasa lo de jin she ba chang be o ze nam ba ro ba ngom bar kem pa la jasa lo de jin she ba be me o ze nam ba ro ba ngom bar kem pa la jasa lo nor bella jasa lo dembe bella jasa lo tempe shin du yong zha la jasa lo wang bu do gi gyao sing gi gyao bo la jasa lo Shindu number nombe bella jazalo yule shindu number gyawala jazalo number nombe shebe bella jazalo gune nangwa gobe bella jazalo renjen bema number nombala jazalo deshin sheba dajumba yanda para sobe sanje rimbo je bema la rabdu shubba re wangi gyabola jazalo. All these and all the Tathagatas, Arhats, however many perfectly complete Buddhas abide in all the worlds of the 10 directions, and all the Buddhas, transcendent conquerors who prevail in this world, please heed me. Maurice, page 54.
In this and former lives without beginning, in all the states of birth within samsara, we have committed evil deeds. We have instigated others and found joy in their crimes. We have stolen the wealth of the stupas, the Sangha community, the Sangha of the 10 directions. We have incited others to steal and found joy in their thefts. We have committed the 5 immediate sins, have incited others to commit them, and found joy in their downfalls. We have fully entered the path of engaging in the 10 unwholesome deeds, have incited others to enter it, and have found joy in their submission.
Page 55, Ana Santos. If you are there, please unmute and read page 55.
Obscured by all these karmic veils, I and sentient beings have gone to hell, have gone to the birthplaces of animals, have gone to the worlds of hungry ghosts, have taken birth in savage places as barbarians, as long-lived gods, and as humans with impaired sense faculties. I have turned to corrupted views and karmic obscurations from having failed to please the Buddhas I encountered. In the presence of the Bhagavan Buddha Wisdom Mind, before their eyes, in their witness, before the authentic ones, the all-knowing one, the all-seeing ones, I disclose all these karmic obscurations. I declare them, I shall not hide them, and hereafter I shall sever and bind them.
To the top of page 56, David, if you are there.
I gather all the roots of virtue I have accumulated in cyclic existence through having acted generously towards another samsaric sentient being, even only offering a mouthful of food to those born in the animal realms, together with any root of virtue from having guarded moral discipline, any root of virtue from having practiced pure conduct.
Continue to the end of the page.
Any root of virtue from having brought sentient beings to full maturity. Any root of virtue from having given rise to bodhicitta, the mindset on supreme awakening.
Melissa, page 57.
Any root of virtue from unsurpassed primordial awareness accumulated in this and former lives without beginning within samsara, all these I dedicate them perfectly, supremely, most supremely, and sublimely towards unsurpassed, perfectly complete awakening. Just as the previous Bhagavan Buddhas perfectly performed dedication, and just as the Bhagavan Buddhas who have not yet appeared will perfectly perform dedication, and just as the present Bhagavan Buddhas perfectly perform dedication, likewise shall I perform perfect dedication. I confess each and every wrongdoing in this moment.
Randy, top of 58.
I exhort and supplicate all Buddhas that I may attain unsurpassed, most excellent primordial wisdom. With my palms joined together, I wholeheartedly take refuge in all those with praiseworthy qualities, as infinite as a vast ocean, all the Buddhas supreme among humans who exist at present, those who have passed into nirvana, and those who have not yet appeared.
Now, back to page 50. This time I'm going to again do the section for the Buddhas, starting on page 50. But what I want to do today is a little different. So again, now you can either do prostrations or you can listen and look at the images of each of the Buddha as their names are being read. What I want to do a little differently is I want to read to you this section of homage, the names of the Buddhas as they appear in Sanskrit. So their names in Sanskrit. So later I will share with you. Again, I'm going to read this one actually, just if you want to look it up quickly, from the Rigpa Wiki site that I mentioned. So in the Rigpa Wiki site, there is a 35 Buddhas of Confession, the list. Their translation into English and also the Sanskrit for the names. So I'm going to read from there. So starting on page 50. Throughout all time, all sentient beings take refuge in the Guru, take refuge in the Buddha, take refuge in the Dharma, take refuge in the Sangha. Homage to the Bhagavan Tathagata Arhat, perfectly complete Buddha Shakyamuni. Homage to Vajra Pramardin. Homage to Ratna Archis. Homage to Nageshwara Raja. Homage to Virasena. Homage to Viranandin. Homage to Rakna Agni. Homage to Ratna Chanda Prabha. Homage to Amoga Darshan. Homage to Ratna Chandra. Homage to Vimala. Homage to Shuradatta. Homage to Brahmana. Homage to Brahmadatta. Homage to Varuna. Homage to Varuna Deva. Homage to Bhadrashri. Homage to Chandanashri. Homage to Ananta Ujas. Homage to Prabhashashri. Homage to Ashoka Shri. Homage to Narayana. Homage to Kusuma Shri. Homage to Brahma Jyotir Vikridita Bhinya. Homage to Padma Jyoti Vikridita Bhinya. Homage to Dhanashri. Homage to Smriti Shri. Homage to Supari Kirti Tana Nama Desha Shri. Homage to Indra Ketu Dwaja Raja. Homage to Suvikranta Shri. Homage to Vijitra Sangrama. Homage to Vikrantagamin. Homage to Samanta Vabhasha Vyuhashri. Homage to Ratnapadma Vikramin. Homage to Ratnapadma Supratishtita Shailendra Raja. So these are their names in Sanskrit. All these, and now at the bottom of 53, all these and all the Tathagatas, all the Arhats, however many perfectly complete Buddhas abide in all the worlds of the 10 directions, and all the Buddhas, the transcendent conquerors who prevail in this world, please heed me. Judy, page 54. Can you take that page?
In this and former lives without beginning, in all the states of birth without samsara, I have committed evil deeds. I have instigated others and found joy in their crimes. I have stolen the wealth of stupas, the Sangha community, and the Sangha of the 10 directions. I have incited others to steal and found joy in their thefts. I have committed the 5 immediate sins, have incited others to commit them, and have found joy in their downfalls. I have fully entered the path of engaging in the 10 unwholesome deeds, have incited others to enter it, and have found joy in their submission.
Leonard, 55. Leonard, if you are there, please unmute.
Obscured by all these karmic veils, I and sentient beings have gone to hell, have gone to the birthplaces of animals, have gone to the worlds of hungry ghosts, have taken birth in savage places, as barbarians, as long-lived gods, and as humans with impaired sense faculties. I have turned to corrupted views and karmic obscurations from having failed to please the Buddhas I encountered. In the presence of the Bhagavan Buddha wisdom mind, before their eyes in their witness, before the authentic ones, the all-knowing ones, the all-seeing ones, I disclose all these karmic obscuration. I declare them, I shall not hide them, and hereafter I shall sever and bind them.
To the top of page 56, Lucrezia. If you're there, please unmute. Top of page 56. Claudia, page 56.
All Buddha's transcendent conquerors, please heed us. I gather all the roots of virtue I have accumulated in cyclic existence through having acted generously towards another samsaric sentient being, even only offering a mouthful of food to those born in the animal realm, together with any root of virtue from having guarded moral discipline, any root virtue from having practiced pure conduct, any root of virtue from having brought sentient beings to full maturity, any root of virtue from having given rise to bodhicitta, the mindset on supreme awakening.
Page 57, waiting.
And any root of virtue from unsurpassed primordial awareness accumulated in these and former lives without beginning within samsara. All these I dedicate them perfectly, supremely, most supremely, and sublimely towards unsurpassed, perfectly complete awakening. Just as the previous Bhagavan Buddhas perfectly performed dedication, and just as the Bhagavan Buddhas who have not yet appeared will perfectly perform dedication. And just as the present Bhagavan Buddhas perfectly perform dedication, likewise shall I perform perfect dedication. I confess each and every wrongdoing and rejoice in all merit.
Page 58, Josh Nash.
I exhort and supplicate all Buddhas, that I may attain unsurpassed, most excellent primordial wisdom. With my palms together, I wholeheartedly take refuge in all those with praiseworthy qualities, as infinite as a vast ocean. All the Buddhas, supreme among humans, who exist at present, those who have passed into nirvana, and those who have not yet appeared.
Okay, so we have completed the 2 recitations for today. So we have started to look at the main text itself yesterday. Yeah, basically we are at around page 55. Yeah. So in the presence of the Bhagavan Buddha's wisdom mind, so we are calling them to be our witnesses. So we disclose, we reveal, we lay them out clearly, all these karmic obscurations. So we declare them, it says, we should not hide them. Thereafter, we shall sever and bind them. To sever, to cut, and then to bind them. They're no longer able to control us. So here is, in reference to this is the power of resolve. So here, especially the power of regret, disclosing these karmic obscurations, declaring them, not hiding them. So that is the power of regret. Then the power of resolve. Hereafter I shall sever, cut, and bind them. Then in the presence of the Buddha Bhagavan's wisdom mind before their eyes, this is the power of the refuge or reliance. And important to remember that then by taking refuge in the Buddhas, taking refuge in bodhicitta, that is our reliance. Then the remedy is the actual practice, the inner practice of this, of where we change the mind, we destroy the seeds, the negative karmic seeds, or at least weaken them and keep weakening them until we can completely destroy those seeds. Then in various commentaries and teachings from Gampopa too, we learned that he says, ultimately the way to destroy these seeds is to realize the emptiness of inherent existence, realize the illusory nature of all these phenomena. But to realize the illusory nature of phenomena, to realize emptiness, to realize the lack of self in any of this, it's not something that we can do so easily, and definitely it is something that we should avoid intellectualizing. If you say, well, how do I know that I'm avoiding intellectualizing? Because when I study this, it's a pretty, intellectual, right? It involves, it engages the intellect. Yes, of course. When we say that you don't want to intellectualize it, is to say you cannot just, learn all the categories, learn all the reasonings, and then not bring it into your experience. So to bring it into your experience is, again, whenever and especially when difficult things are happening, difficult things are occurring. And we find ourselves getting stuck. We find ourselves getting frozen. We find ourselves, in other words, becoming very solid. And that is especially the time we need to bring these reasonings, bring this intellectual analysis, bring this, we call reflecting or contemplating. Bring that and use that and shine a light on the situation. In some ways, you could say to lighten up the situation and to learn to let go. Put it down, put it down, put it down. Put it down, put it down, put it down. That is sometimes a very effective mantra. Sometimes during that time, hard to Om Mani Padme Hum, the problem away. Then you have to switch to, let it down, put it down, put it down, put it down. Let it go, let it go, let it go. Let it go, Om Mani Padme Hum. Let it go, Om Mani Padme Hum. Let it go, Om Mani Padme Hum. Breathe in, Om Mani Padme Hum. Breathe out, let it go. Yeah. Or as those two girl god kids, they play that song, let it go, let it go. From Frozen, I think, yeah. So don't get frozen, let it melt, let it go, So we have to do that. That's a good mantra, so to say, and that's when it's actually being applied. If we chant Om Mani Padme Hum and still we keep holding tightly, then even if it feels like we are doing something that will help, it's not really helping if we don't understand too. It's to let it go. So Om Mani Padme Hum, breathe in the blessings of the Lord of Compassion. What that blessings will do is, or what you will need to let the blessings do is to dissolve the tightness, to dissolve the unwillingness to let go. And think that now has been dissolved. Then breathe out, let it go. Breathe in, Om Mani Padme Hum. Breathe out, let it go. Breathe in, Om Mani Padme Hum. Breathe out, relax the muscles. You'll find that, like the muscles like around the stomach, the muscles up here, they all get very tight. Then there is like a knot here. There's certain muscles are tensing up, where the physical heart organ is pumping blood. It's getting a little stressed out, Breathe in, Om Mani Padme Hum. Breathe out. Let it go. That is, right? All this talk about emptiness, all this talk about selflessness, all this talk about, no inherent existence. Yeah. That is the felt experience of it. That is how we experience that. That is how we deepen that understanding. To the degree that reading these very systematic and very well-argued positions about why things are empty of inherent existence, why things lack essences, why things lack self, the nature of the ground, the nature of the mind, all these things. If we cannot figure out, right, what does that mean when suffering turns up? What does that mean when suffering appears? Then, right, what's the point? Maybe the point is, I can debate very well, but, most of us live alone and don't have anyone to debate, so then maybe we go to Facebook and we try to provoke a debate, and then very soon people are just arguing and talking past each other. So the Dharma needs to be tasted. When you have tasted a little bit of freedom that comes from Dharma, then confidence in Dharma can grow. And then we taste more the taste of freedom, the taste of letting go, the taste of putting it down. Then, we gain a little bit more confidence, a little bit more confidence. So that our Dharma practice is not based on, sometimes, our Dharma practice is based on, well, I'm a Buddhist, so I believe these things, it's about our self-image. Sometimes that can be helpful, like it will prevent us from doing something really stupid. Sometimes that kind of pride, but ultimately you cannot rely on that kind of pride, like, oh, wow, I'm Buddhist, I don't do things like that. I have seen the benefits of that. It prevents you from doing something really stupid in the moment. But in the long run, it has to come from us having tasted this and go, yeah, and it includes tasting suffering. I've said this many times, and I'm now saying it to remind myself, because of a fear, we talked about fear earlier on, because of fear of karma, negative karma, because of fear of experiencing the unpleasant, the stressful, ultimately because of fear of death, we turn to the Dharma. But once we enter the Dharma, once we have entered the gate of Dharma, we need to begin to reassess, rewire our relationship with this fear, with suffering. Once we have entered the gate of Dharma, then instead of just running away from suffering, we have to directly look at suffering, which means we have to directly experience the suffering, understanding that if we skillfully learn how to experience suffering, suffering itself can offer us a gateway to freedom from suffering. If we know how to skillfully look at suffering, experience suffering, then that skillful handling of suffering becomes a gateway for freedom from suffering. So one of the dharmas of Gampopa say, we need to let confusion dawn as wisdom. This is not something mysterious. This is not something, confusion will dawn as wisdom. Yes. So I'm going to sit in front and watch Netflix for the 8 hours, the next 8 hours, and all the confusions that arise from there. At the end of the 8 hours, somehow they turn into wisdom. It doesn't mean that, Confusion is darkness, right? So like the darkness of the night, what happens in the morning when the sun arises is that darkness turns into light. So it's not saying darkness itself is light, but may darkness dawn as wisdom. If you want to push this analogy, this analysis a little bit further, be careful not to think somehow, may I see in the dark? I mean, it's great if you can see in the dark, but here is not saying, let me walk around in darkness and pretend that I'm seeing. Here, in this Dharma of Gampopa is actually saying, this darkness, what it's saying is like this darkness, this confusion is not something that needs to be like removed necessarily and then light brought in. But the minute you invite the light in, the darkness naturally fades away. So it's talking about let the light in. The problem is not that light cannot overcome darkness. The problem is we don't let the light in. So we need to let the light in. So we need to let the light of Dharma illuminate all the dark and difficult places that inevitably, as beings in samsara, we are going to experience. See, right now what we're doing when we experience that darkness, that heaviness, is we try to run away from it, we try to ignore it, we try to put painkillers on it, we try to, drizzle a whole bunch of maple syrup on it, But here it's saying, let the light in. Because the light will illuminate. And once the light gets a chance to come in, you don't need to do anything with the darkness, because the light is naturally illuminating that darkness. So then the darkness of confusion will be replaced by the wisdom light of dawn. Now, in this practice, the third component, the third element is about this light. About this dawning of this light. The dawning of this light ultimately is the light of wisdom. But the light of wisdom, again, the light of wisdom that dispels confusions of self, confusions of fixation, confusions of grasping, confusion about the ground. This darkness can be dispelled only by wisdom light. But this wisdom light is reliant on other conditions. So these other conditions are what we call the accumulation of merit. And the wisdom light is the accumulation of wisdom. So this is known as the two accumulations. The two accumulations, you can say the two gatherings. You can say it's the two building up. Yeah. But even this, right? It's a matter of on what level you need to relate to these two aspects in what way. At the beginning level, you have to relate to these 2 points as a form of accumulating, a form of gathering. Because if you don't relate to them in that way, the problem we have is laziness. Okay, let me not accuse everyone of that. The problem that I have is laziness. And so if I don't relate to these two aspects as how the Buddha expresses it as the two accumulations, then these 2 points are not going to they are not going to work. They are not going to appear by themselves. If they would appear by themselves, right? There is no you and me here having any problems anymore. So we have to begin by relating to it as the two gatherings. The gathering of merit is also a training in compassion. With an eye towards, with the motivation of love and compassion, we cultivate merit because merit allows us to connect with others. Really. Merit is what allows us to connect with others. If you don't have that, you will be isolated and cut off. Why we don't get along with others? Not enough merit between us. Not enough auspicious conditions. Merit, what we call merit, Superficially, you think, merit is like the money in your bank account. And then when you hear gather or accumulate, you sometimes we think it's, oh, I'm Buddhist, or I'm a Dharma, I'm a spiritual person. I should not be so greedy, always thinking of accumulating. This is a misunderstanding. This is talking about, if you understand these teachings on the two accumulations, it says without merit. And merit is about love and compassion. So what this means is like without merit, you cannot practice love and compassion because the objects of your love and compassion will be running away from you. You have no chemistry with others. And if you don't have chemistry with others, if you don't have merit, you cannot achieve wisdom. And that wisdom cannot dispel confusion. So it turns out that it's all interdependent. Then in terms of the 6 perfections of the Bodhisattva path, the 6 paramitas, the first 5 pertains to the gathering of merit, and the 6th pertains to the gathering of the accumulation of wisdom. So briefly, quickly, the 6 perfections is the perfection of giving or generosity. Next, the perfection of ethical conduct, of disciplined ethical conduct. Shila, the first one is called dana. The second is called shila in Sanskrit. Oh, hello, Sheila. Speaking of Sheila, I will get that information, and some other people also asked that information about the organization that takes care of the dogs in the Bodha area especially, and also in other areas, but they're most visible in the Bodha because there they know they can fundraise to help. The more I talk with Nepali friends, I'm impressed by there's really this love for dogs. Not always true in many places in Asia. Dogs are kicked and stones thrown at them. I see that even in monasteries, young monks, throwing stones at dogs, and so dogs have this. But in Nepal, and the more I see, Nepali people seem to have this love, genuine love for dogs, and so cats. You don't see that many cats, period, in these areas somehow. But dogs. Then of course, the dogs are a lot of them are homeless. They're just there are also programs to perform birth control on the dogs and to minimize. So I'll get that information. Sometimes they don't have like online things, and so it's not easy to get the funds to them, but hopefully they do. If they don't, I'll find alternatives. I have a good friend helping us, Lama Ringzin. He can also help. But anyway, so second is Shila. It's discipline, ethical conduct. Yeah. Third is forbearance, endurance, forbearance, often translated as patience. To forbear, meaning not to like strike out in anger. So here the English word patience is not necessarily automatically involves the opposite of striking out. But in this understanding, kashanti, translated as patience or endurance, the theme is do not immediately strike out, retaliate when we are upset, and therefore practice forbearance. So that's the third. The fourth is joyful effort, vigilance. Joyful is important. The fifth is meditative concentration, stability of mind. And the sixth is wisdom, clear seeing. The first five is said to be the accumulation of merit, and the sixth is the accumulation of wisdom. So here in this section of our practice, basically the way this text kind of indicates the six perfections is in the next lines, in the next few sentences. So it says, on page 56, I gather all the roots of virtue have accumulated in cyclic existence, having acted generously, even only offering a mouthful of food to those born in the animal realm. So that summarizes, that indicates the practice of the first of the perfections, which is the perfection of giving. Perfection of giving or generosity is about the openness of heart. So it says, without first cultivating this openness of heart, this generosity, this, opening of our fist, without first doing this, the seeds cannot be planted. The field, if the field is not open, the seeds cannot be planted. If the field of our hearts are narrow, I don't have enough, I cannot share, I cannot give, then this field will remain closed. We all have this precious field, but if we put signs up and say out of bounds, intruders will be shot, then no planting can occur, no ripening can occur, no fruits can be enjoyed. So the perfection of giving or generosity opens everything up. It's the opening of the heart. Right? In a way, right, it takes us all the way back to, all the way to the perfection of wisdom. Because what happens when the perfection of wisdom is fully realized is now the heart is completely open. Because self-grasping has dissolved. So you see, the first and the last perfection is one circle. So don't ever think, the beginning is not important. Actually, at the beginning, the end is already shown. This is a unique, I would say, emphasis of Kyopa Jigten Sungmen, founder of Drikung Kagyu. He says, what is given at the beginning is most profound. Because right there already, the end is already shown. It might not be obvious to you, but if you are practicing correctly and authentically, what you see more and more is how all these higher teachings with fancy words, fancy ideas, very poetic, very impressive, all of that, it leads you back to fully understanding what you were already introduced to at the beginning. So this perfection of generosity, sounds simple enough. And in fact, it is said, of the six, it's the easiest to begin with. But don't think, this is just Buddhism for dummies. When can I get to wisdom? Right there, wisdom is already there. Then, next line here, together with any root of virtue from having guarded moral discipline. That's the second. Second of the perfections. The essence of moral discipline or ethical conduct or disciplined ethical conduct in Buddha Dharma is not about judgment. It's not about being a good person even. It's not even about that. Being a good person or you're a bad person. We don't see terms in terms of like you're good or you're bad. Here it's talking about don't cause harm. Don't cause harm to others. Don't cause harm to yourself. When you harm others, you're harming yourself. When you harm yourself, you are also harming others. All this is interdependent. So the essence of Shila is not moral superiority. It's about not causing harm. When we minimize causing harm, whether to ourselves or to others, and in fact these two are interdependent, then our minds, our lives become lighter. When we act in ways that we know is not causing harm, our conscience is clear, everything is a lot lighter. We become less suspicious of people. We become less critical of people. We become less harsh of people. Why? Because we become less suspicious of ourselves. We become less harsh on ourselves. It's the interdependence of those two. We become less suspicious of ourselves because, we know that we are working on not creating causes of suffering for ourselves and others. And therefore, we become lighter. The hashtag here is trust karma. In my other class, this has become a hashtag. Trust karma. Meaning when we understand karma, how karma works, then whether we're experiencing negatives or positives right now, we understand, where this is coming from and where this can go. Yeah. So this is the second. So all of these is covered in a lot of details in Gampopa's Jewel Ornament of Liberation. A lot of details there. Do read it. If you get overwhelmed, step back a little. Because as I say, that text is packed with like notes, cliff notes for teachers to teach, to unpack. Yeah. It's not an exciting novel. Then, the third is any root of virtue from having practiced pure conduct. Literally here is talking about practicing celibacy, chaste. Literally here. But in the commentaries, it says, even though the vocabulary used here is brahmacharya in the Sanskrit, which is the charya, the conduct of the Brahmins, that means pure. But here, it's not limited to that narrow definition. Here is talking about the third of the 6 perfections, which is the perfection of endurance, forbearance, patience. So just so you know, the literal word used here is brahmacharya, which is often translated as celibacy or being chaste. But in the commentary, it shows that the broader point here is the third of the 6 paramitas. And the other one that is more poetic of learning about the 6 paramitas is Shantideva's Bodhicayavatara. But in Shantideva's Bodhicayavatara, just so you know, the first 2 paramitas are not explicitly taught. There are no chapters in the Bodhicayavatara of Shantideva called giving and disciplined conduct. But there are chapters called endurance or patience or forbearance, joyful effort, meditative concentration, and wisdom. So for those 4 paramitas, Shantideva's Bodhicayavatara has those 4. Yeah. The practice of generosity and disciplined conduct is still taught in Bodhicayavatara, but indirectly, under the chapter on taking the Bodhisattva vow. There are 2 chapters there. The virtues of the Bodhisattva vows and the taking of the Bodhisattva vows. There it says in the commentaries for the Bodhicayavatara of Shantideva, it says there in the context of looking at the benefits of bodhicitta and the adoption of bodhicitta, generosity and disciplined conduct is taught in there. So in that way, yes, Shantideva's Bodhicayavatara has the 6 paramitas. But in Gampopa's jewel ornament, it's laid out chapter by chapter. Because the practice of the 6 paramitas is basically engagement bodhicitta. They are what needs to be practiced. So today we will stop here with the 3rd paramita. Then the other 3 paramitas, we will look at that tomorrow. Yeah. So we will stop here by going to the practice, page 63, going to the text here. Page 63. Please act accordingly to the pledge you took when you engaged in bodhisattva deeds, and thus purify the negativities and downfalls of myself and other beings. By apprehending your name, by repeating and calling it again and again, I supplicate you to purify, exhaust, and cleanse entirely the negativities, downfalls, and obscurations of all wandering beings. In these evil times, sentient beings' actions are degraded, impure, and unawakened. Our minds are suffused with negative emotions. Our offerings are scanty. They are marred by stains and other faults. Please forgive us all our mistakes. Page 64. The light of boundless compassion clears away the evil states and dispels demonic forces, hindrances, and hosts of wickedness. May the splendid power of the victorious ones, equal to 100,000 suns, bring forth the happiness and fortune of infinite living beings. The stream of nectar flowing from the immaculate Dharmadhatu space fully cleanses the stains of evil tendencies. May the splendid power of the holy Dharma of the cessation and path bring forth the happiness and fortune of infinite living beings. In order to eliminate the endless torment of cyclic existence, you have not abandoned the heavy burden of your vows and aspirations. May the splendid power of the ocean of great and noble bodhisattvas bring forth the happiness and fortune of infinite living beings. Now the Sukhavati aspiration. Hema sa sanje nangwa taye dang yesu jobo tuje chenpo dang yondu senpa tuje tonam la sanje changsen pame korgi kor deki ngosa pakdu meba ye dewa chense shawe shinkamde nashen dine sepo kirmata kewa senji barma chobaru Deru kene nante shatun sho deke dagi monlam tabadi Joju sanje chansen tamje ki geme rupa jinji labdu so Teyata benzagriya awa bodha naya soha Changju semchu rinpoche Ma ge ba nam ge gyu che ge ba nyam ba me ba ya gong ne gong du biao wer shu. So I'll leave some time for any questions or comments.
Dr. Lai?
Yes.
You may expand a little bit about the skillful way of looking at suffering that you just quickly mentioned.
Oh, I think you already know how to do that.
Last night we listened again to yesterday's teaching about the four immeasurable, especially about the part of equanimity being the wisdom, and that,
yes.
And then I realized that I have no wisdom, and I couldn't sleep. I spent the whole night sleepless, Really, maybe I should have listened to you right before going to bed. So then I realized I spend a lot of time on compassion, but it's not really, it's a subject.
Yeah.
And now with the skillful way of suffering,
right?
With that, I'm kind of, I don't know, confused.
Yeah. So in that way, first, I think the fundamentals of the Buddha Dharma we need to be clear, which is everybody is heir, successor heir to their own karma. Ultimately, no one can give us the results of their karma, which also means ultimately we cannot give other people the results of our karma. So I think gaining more understanding of that will help with some equanimity. To know that if it was possible for anyone to take away other people's suffering, if you believe there are Buddhas, then Buddhas would have done that already. And the fact that Buddhas have not done that clearly is not because Buddhas are not compassionate, but it's not possible. Right? It's not possible. So the more we kind of understand that, and when suffering arises for us, when I said, when suffering arises and you look at it skillfully, that means what I mean to say, I'm not saying something very specific. What I'm saying is a lot of times when suffering turns up, we don't relate to it skillfully. So we either try to apply like a painkiller, and sometimes the painkiller has more of a samsaric nature, and sometimes that painkiller can even be Dharma. Then we are applying Dharma as painkiller and not applying Dharma as treating the underlying cause. Yeah, the Dharma treating the underlying cause gives us understanding, gives us realization. And in the moment of knowing that, it can even offer temporary healing that has long-term implications. Yeah, again, even applying the painkiller can result in two kind of different directions. One, it will only result in, the temporary painkiller, and then that's it. The second is a temporary painkiller that also have long-term positive implications. So for example, seeing suffering, seeing that this is happening, and developing the ability to then let it go. And knowing, then this doesn't come from, it's not something automatic, it's over time. It accumulates, from various reasonings. You can see no point holding on to it, no point thinking about it, no point having our mind and attention caught up in it. Let it go. So you let it go, certain anxiety that just comes up, like, oh, I need to do my taxes. Oh, how come my bookkeeper is not, doing it yet? In that moment, you feel a certain anxiety. But even right there, you're like, let it go. Not let it go, like ignoring it, You don't do that. Maybe you send an email to whoever you need to send an email to, then let it go. But then you if you want, you look at that anxiety. You say, what is that anxiety about? What is that anxiety about? What is it? But here again, I would say there is the looking at these things from a more therapy point of view, working through those issues. But the Dharma looking at suffering is not like that. There are, overlapping, but they're not exactly like, that way. Like figuring out all, and then, from a Dharma perspective, it could, now you're doing self-therapy and without the advantage of, a good therapist to lead you to where good therapy can lead you to. I believe that. In fact, a lot of people, I think, when they turn to the Dharma, I almost feel like, especially Westerners, I almost feel like I want to say, do you have a good therapist? Are you working with a good therapist? Do that work first before you come to more intensely Dharma. Because Dharma addressing of issues is on a different level and using it in a different way, when a lot of times I think maybe people should just first go look for a good therapist. Yeah. And then, Dharma can really help us get to the underlying things. So when I say skillfully engaging suffering, what I mean is, what I meant more generally is suffering itself has no value. So don't, suffering is good, let me go look for suffering. No. But when we can skillfully engage suffering, meaning in the experience of that suffering, does it show me more clearly what the Buddha said about where suffering comes from? And therefore, when we understand where suffering comes from, we can understand how can I undo suffering. The purpose of knowing where suffering comes from is so that we can know how to let go of suffering. Yeah? And knowing the mechanics of suffering. So that's the difference, I think, here. I think in therapy, it's looking at more like specific to the particular difficulty, the particular situation, the particular issue. The Dharma is working more on recognizing a pattern that occurs with all forms of suffering, and therefore understanding the more universal mechanics of suffering. The more universal workings of suffering, and recognizing that pattern allows you to then not so easily get caught up when the conditions and the causes of suffering coalesce, right? Even when the conditions and the causes of suffering coalesce or come together, you can still undo that. So that you don't have to just sit there and experience the full force of that ripening. And so that is what purification is about. Yeah? That you don't have to like helplessly experience the full force of that ripening. Yeah?
Thank you.
Other questions or comments?
Han, I had a question about the use of the word guarded in terms of moral discipline. What do they mean by
what do you think it means?
Well, to me, guarded means not stepping back or not totally engaging in it.
Oh no, this is like to guard, security guard.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So you have to relate to your vows of training like a guard, because the thieves of the six senses are going to come rob you. So these vows of training is to help you guard.
Okay.
Yeah. Guard means that. Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Some of this is like literal translation of Tibetan, so the expression is a little. I'm working on, hopefully by the end of this program, to be able to offer you a translation of the main practice from page 50 to 58 that is cleaner, that is easier to use. So I'm working on that text right now, that translation.
Right. Okay. Because it didn't make sense otherwise. And if I think of it in terms of how guarded is used in English, it doesn't mean guard. It means sort of like you don't give yourself totally into it.
Yeah. No. Here it's about the guard.
Right. Gotcha.
To safeguard your heart.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah. Makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Other questions? One expression used in the Buddhist text is like, you should guard your vows, guard your moral discipline, like you guard your eyes. So to kind of think of, your ethical conduct as precious as your eyes, and in some ways also as sensitive as your eyes, like one speck of dust going into your eye, you get all irritated, so you have to think like that, it's saying. Anything else? Decided to change the view of where this is. What you normally see is on this side. This is the other side. That is the door that comes into the house, one of the doors. So there's a lot of light because that side is east facing. So in the morning, very strong. Well, if you don't have more questions or comments, we will end here today. I will be posting some photos there on the most recent, the offering of food in Nepal, in Bodha. So they said that they can't find that many people that are like beggars. Usually they are in the Bodha stupa area, but not that many. So they also gave to just anyone who wants it. I said, that's very good, One of the things about giving is also no need to focus too much on whether that person need or don't need. In terms of like, oh, this is a poor person, You can even give to a rich person and perhaps change their day, change their minds, change their attitude. Giving is not just, should not only be, top down. Giving without discrimination also. Because in the end, what everybody is hungering for is more than just food, more than money. Yeah. In the end, what everyone is hungering for is meaningful connection. And so that is also what generosity is about. Meaningful connection. So there is one of the vows of Samantabhadra. So this is related to the seven-limbed puja, the vows of Samantabhadra. It says that Samantabhadra has 10 vows. And one of them is to continuously be in harmony with sentient beings. It's called Heng Shun Zhong Sen in Chinese. To continuously strive for harmony with sentient beings. This is not an easy one because there are things to navigate here, Samantabhadra is not, in harmony with beings by turning into confused sentient beings, oh, let's go get harmony. Let's go out and party together. Let's be in harmony. Let's go invade the next country or the next town because, the people you're with, like to invade or like to steal or like to, no. That's not the kind of harmony. But nonetheless, one of the vows he has is to harmonize yourself with all beings. So there was a teaching, a very brief, short teaching from Kyopa Jiten Sungen, the translation project that is ongoing. And some of you know about this, translating the shorter teachings of the founder of Drikung Kagyu, which has not been translated much at all. I've been working on this project, and there's one short teaching where Jigten Sungen says, you might think that you are helping beings by giving teachings, giving empowerments, giving ordination. He's talking to especially his close monk disciples, which they are trained to do this. You're giving empowerments, you're giving vows, you're giving teachings, all of that. He says, but if you do not know how to be in harmony with sentient beings, again, skillfully be in harmony in sentient beings, ultimately you cannot help them. Then he ends that section by saying, therefore, give up self-grasping. It's like, wow. We hear a lot about giving up self-grasping, but what does that mean? Together with this context, you're like, oh. So Gloria, your earlier question about working on compassion and compassion. So that we are training, in benefiting beings, right? But Kyopa Rinpoche says, so yeah, there's the actions that are generally praised as very helpful to other beings, especially for those in a position to teach and to guide. So he says, yeah, you might be giving empowerments to others, giving vows to others, giving teachings to others, all of that. Sure, we say those are very good things to do, because without that, beings also cannot practice. But he says, unless you are working on being in harmony with all beings, he says, in the end, you cannot help them. That kind of like, oh, wow. Then the next wow is, he says, and therefore. We wouldn't know to even go and therefore give up self-grasping. So where now he's pointing to is, in a lot of our trying to help others, we are still under the power of our own categories that are informed by self-grasping. So he says, therefore, give up self-grasping. It's like, wow. Then elsewhere in another teaching, I got the draft this morning when I woke up. It's so nice to wake up to these drafts waiting for me. And in that draft it says, give up self-grasping. And then there in that particular teaching it says, therefore practice bodhicitta, practice the idam, practice devotion to the guru, and practice letting mind settle evenly, and practice giving dedication. There he's talking about what in Drikung Kagyu we call the fivefold path. The fivefold path of Mahamudra. How do you give up self-grasping? He says, practice those things. Then, now we also understand. What does it mean to practice those 5 things? Bodhicitta, deity yoga, devotion to the guru, settling the mind in the Mahamudra state, and dedication. That is all about giving up self-grasping. Why do we practice idam? Why do we practice Jakasamvara? Why do we practice Avalokiteshvara? Why do we practice Kala Chakra? All of that. Give up self-grasping. There, what particular brand of self-grasping? Self-grasping in relation to body and self-identity. Idam transforms that. Meditating on Guru, devotion to the Guru. There, what flavor of self-grasping? Arrogance and jealousy. To be able to look at the other. Here the other is the Guru. As Buddha is to train for us to view everybody else as well as Guru. Again, giving up self-grasping. Settling the mind into Mahamudra state, that is to give up self-grasping in the form of confusion. Dedication is to give up self-grasping, the particular flavor of self-grasping that manifests as attachment. Bodhicitta at the beginning is to give up self-grasping in the flavor of aversion. So self-grasping has 5 flavors. Those are the 5 kleshas, the 5 afflictive emotions. And in the Jigungkagyu system, you work on these 5 through the 5-fold Mahamudra. Mahamudra in the 5 aspects of bodhicitta, of idam, of guru devotion, of natural state, of dedication. Anyway, I digress. So you all have a good day. You all have a good evening. Tata, be good, and we will be back tomorrow.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Lai.
Gracias.
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 Bye. Thank you.